Hi, my name's Matthew Cooper. I'm a UK scriptwriter for hire. I had my first credit on Channel 4 at age 19 in 1993, a short film which starred a young actor called Ewan McGregor, one of his first credits. From there I went on to be the youngest writer on Emmerdale. I've written EastEnders, including the episode where Alfie told Kat I loved her, which was a big cultural thing back in the day with lots of viewers.
Must be a first though.
Boys.
Well, I've been stood up before, but I've never had anyone actually disappear halfway through.
I know, I can explain about that.
No, you don't have to.
No, I want to. I'll try
No,
to
it doesn't
find
matter. I mean, look, we could have made a really big mistake, and we didn't, so let's just forget about it.
If that's what you want.
Don't you?
I've also written for Hollyoaks. I've sold screenplays to Hollywood majors, had screenplays options, and had feature films made. This is a series of videos aimed at new writers, specifically new writers in the UK mainly. One of the services I offer as a scriptwriter is for new writers, where I've turned from a player into a coach. And what I offer as a coach is a script report and script coverage service, the most in-depth on the market I'm told. My reports are often 40-50 pages for a feature film. A large section of the reports contains business aspect advice for screenwriters and script people wanting a screenwriting career. This is a business, and in the UK it works specifically one way, in my experience at least, and I'm going to go through that in depth to give you an idea of what agents are looking for, how careers work, how to get original screenplays or scripts made or series made. I'll be covering sitcoms, I'll be covering the BBC Writersroom, I'll be covering how you approach an agent and what an agent expects of a new writer approaching them. This is all stuff that's not really covered in books, sort of screenwriting how-to books. This is the stuff that you need to learn and get advice on if you want to see your work on the TV. I'll also be covering the TV industry generally. There's only ever around 300 scriptwriters working full-time in the UK. At the point that I'm recording these videos in late 2024, I'd say out of those 300 scriptwriters, probably about 150 of them are unemployed and haven't worked for 12 months. So actually technically there's probably only around 150 screenwriters in the whole of the UK, 68 odd million people, who are actually earning a living as a scriptwriter. The BBC recently cancelled Doctors, which was a show where the BBC itself sent new writers to be trained, and it's effectively cancelled that show, citing it as too expensive to make. TV's at a funny place. Netflix, Amazon, Apple, Paramount Plus, Disney, all great things in themselves, but they're American, and Netflix and Amazon and Apple are tech companies. They're not TV companies or broadcasters. Amazon itself is only making TV as a way to sell shoes and a way to keep its retail offering interesting and relevant to customers. So screenwriters, at least from when I started out, are now navigating a very, very different landscape, and potentially a very difficult one to navigate. Hopefully this video will explain sort of the lay of the land a little bit better. So what we'll do quickly is we'll just run through who I am, my CV, my background, where I've come from, how I got to write for Emmerdale, EastEnders, etc, etc. I'm from Leeds. I'm working class. I left school at 16. As a teenager, I was a big movie buff. This was before sort of video cameras and things like that. I started to make films on Super 8, on actual cine cameras like this, which were sort of made in the 60s, 70s and 80s. It's what Spielberg got his start using as an amateur. I made some amateur films with friends and family when I was in my early teens, and I really wanted to turn that into a career, but there was probably only 1 or 2 film schools at that point, and they were expensive and well beyond the means of a working class lad leaving school at 16. When I was 19 in 1993, Channel 4 was taking over, showing BAFTA, the BAFTA awards, and the sponsorship was by Lloyds Bank. Lloyds Bank and Channel 4 together ran a competition for people under the age of 19 to have a short film made and broadcast on Channel 4. up and I saw the adverts for this competition, and I worked on a short script very seriously. So even as a teenager, sort of 17, 18, I was writing scripts quite seriously. I read all the Sid Field books. I read what screenplays you could buy or get hold of in those days, which was pre-internet. So I knew what a script looked like. I knew what the format was. Even at 18, 19, before I won the Lloyds Bank Film Challenge, I'd maybe read 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 books on screenwriting. So I was quite advanced screenwriting wise for my age. I entered the competition. It had 2,500 entries. I got down to the final 6 and won. They made 6 short films, and the Channel 4 and Lloyds Bank threw a lot of money at this. My short film starred Ewan McGregor. It was shot on location in Tadcaster, which was not far from where I lived. Other winners included Susan Nixon, who went on to write 2 Pints of Lager and a Packet of Crisps. There's other people who've gone on from the Lloyds Bank Film Challenge series generally to work in all sort of different areas of TV. I worked with a young director called Justin Chadwick, who went on to direct The Other Boleyn Girl. There was people like Simon Beaufoy in there, who went on to be an Oscar winner with Slumdog Millionaire. So I got a short film made, learned a tremendous amount over the year. The short film went out on Channel 4 on a Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, just before or after Brookside, I can't remember which. And you got to remember then, this is pre-internet, there were only 5 channels. This was quite a big deal. After that, so I had this mad year with Channel 4, sort of going back and forth from London, working with the production company and the actors. I was there for the full 3-day shoot with Ewan McGregor. It was, great fun. After that, it kind of ended. The film was shown on TV. And what happened then is I'd written a short film, it had been on TV. Where do you go from there? It's a good lesson for scriptwriters starting out or anywhere. It's a zigzag sort of pathway, your career. So it all depends on what scripts you have. So you need to be working constantly on scripts that you can give people as samples, especially for TV and film. Because once one project ends, you don't suddenly get offered loads of different things. What you do get asked, if you're lucky, is what else have you got? And you constantly need to have a new script. When you get an agent will always like to have new samples that he can or she can send out to people and contacts. So even if you're working on a show like Emmerdale or EastEnders, the agent likes you to keep producing original work that he or she can show around and potentially get you different jobs or better jobs.
You've got plenty of time on your hands, ain't you? Here.
So if you're not constantly writing, that's difficult to maintain a career, and it is as a screenwriter difficult to constantly produce original work, particularly if you're working on a show like a soap where it's heavily deadline driven. It's constant pressure, constant rewrites. A show like Emmerdale or Hollyoaks or Coronation Street, you get commissioned. Within 3 weeks you've gone through 2 or 3 drafts. Within a month or so the thing's on TV. So within 2 months you go from getting commissioned the episode to it being on TV, but during that time you'll be working on 2 or 3 other episodes as well. It's like a sausage factory. So every 2 or 3 weeks you'll get a new episode to write. Doesn't matter where you are on the other episodes, you've got to keep up. So often soap writers are working on 2 episodes at once usually. And then to have an agent and to know that you need to keep providing original work while working on 2 episodes of a show at once, almost non-stop, 12 months a year, all year round, it's very well paid, but it's hard to keep producing original work, which you need to do. So yeah, after I was 19, I had the show on TV and the short film on TV, and then afterwards I had nothing else, and that's it just stops. So at that point, at 19, I had something on TV. I immediately had to go and get a job and get some work, because you need to sort of feed and clothe yourself. So I did various jobs like working in warehouses and different things over the years. But what happened next was I worked up an original screenplay, and I went through an application process with an organisation called British Screen and a film company that was new to the UK called Miramax. And I ended up selling a screenplay to Miramax at 21. So you can see the difference there. 18, 19 writing the short film, 21 until I got the next sort of run on the ladder, which is where I'd essentially sold a feature film to Miramax via British Screen. I worked on that, various drafts, and again, that went nowhere. And then from 21 to 22, 23, 24, 25, I was working on different feature films and trying to get them sort of launched or get interest. But around this time, I got an agent. I think I was probably about 24. I got an agent. I got the agent on the back of a script called Sober. So Sober was written based on a true story somebody told me while I was working at a warehouse in Leeds. I wrote a screenplay based on that true story, a sort of drama comedy. The Guardian had a screenwriting competition, which these are rarer and rarer in the UK these days. But the Guardian, alongside Duncan Kenworthy, the producer of Four Weddings and a Funeral, they had a screenwriting competition. They wanted comedy scripts. I sent Sober off. Sober won. He got a lot of attention in the media, in the Guardian covering it. And from sort of winning the competition, I heard that Duncan Kenworthy was very keen on the script. Using that script, I sent it off to an agent. I sent it to 2 different agents that had sort of word of mouth from friends with good agents. Again, this is kind of pre-internet. You're looking at around 99, 2000, sort of internet just sort of really kicking in. So I got an agent called Jago Irwin, read the script, really liked it, called me down to London. The first meeting with an agent is key. So the agent, Jago, he knew I'd had a short film, because in my letter I'd sent to him, I'd had a short film on Channel 4. I'd won sort of two screenplay competitions at that point. I'd sold a screenplay to Miramax via British Screen. So it looked like this is somebody who's consistently trying to do this. It's not somebody who's, I'll have a go at it, and if it doesn't work out, I'll try something else. This is somebody who's consistently focused on it and has been, for a number of years. So I went for the meeting with Jago, and the first thing Jago asked me is, what TV shows do you want to write? And I said, I'll write anything that pays. That was my first answer. My second answer is, if he asked me to be more specific, I said I'd love to write Coronation Street. I said there's Emmerdale in Leeds. I think I also potentially mentioned Hollyoaks as well, which then was more of a sort of really a children's programme rather than a teen soap. But he asked me about my influences as a scriptwriter, and I'm a big fan of American films, American genre films. My favourite directors now are probably the same as when I was a teenager. It's John Carpenter, Walter Hill, Spielberg, William Friedkin, Joe Dante, people like that. I was a big George Lucas, all that sort of thing. But he asked me about my screenwriting influences, and if I have to be absolutely honest, what I grew up watching on UK TV was Dick Clement and Ian Lafreniere. It was Porridge, it was Likely Lads, it was Auf Wiedersehen Pet. It was stuff that was very funny. It was stuff that was realistically working class, and it was the stuff that I could see myself and my friends in. I'd watch series, the series Whatever Happened to the Likely Lads, and that was like my friends and me, even though that series even then was 20 years old.
Want some coffee? I'd offer you a beer, but I've only got 6 cans.
I think I also mentioned Jimmy McGovern as well, who was a very good writer, and even his Brookside episodes I remember watching, and his Brookside episodes were different and more cinematic and more dangerous than the normal soap episodes. Now apparently, I didn't know this at the time, but that was what an agent wants to hear. So an agent will show the door to people who walk in and, I like your work, you seem a good writer, presentable, nice person, what shows do you want to write? And the writer says, I don't really like anything on TV. Now that might be true, but you can't say that to an agent. An agent is there primarily to get a writer work. An agent doesn't get paid. An agent gets paid a commission, 10 or 15%, sometimes less, sometimes more, but they justify having you on the books by the commission that you produce. This is a business. An agent is like an employment agency. They're sending you out for work. They want you working so that they get a chunk of change from the results of your labour. So, and the agent told me at the time, he said, I'm glad you said all that. That's a load of programmes I can look at. I get a lot of people coming here and say they don't want to write for anything, they just want to have their original films or their original TV shows on TV. They don't want to write for anything existing. Now, that's not how TV works.
There you are.
Thank you very much. Now get lost.
Well, you haven't even touched your food.
It's because I'm not very hungry.
You've got to eat something, Barry.
Well, thank you very much, Florence Nightingale. Now, will you please just go?
Well, at least I tried.
What? Tried? At least you tried. Is that what you just said?
Well, I don't see anybody else coming to check to see if you're all right.
Oh, don't give me that. You're only bothered about me as far as it affects you.
That's not true.
You only want me to reopen the car lot?
Yes, I do. But I want you to get back on your feet, to get living again. Yes, I want my job back, but it doesn't mean that I haven't been worried about you, Barry.
You're worried about me? Is this who I get to save me from myself? Janine the social worker? Janine the conniving little cow who's always looking for an angle? I must be in trouble.
I do care about you.
No, you care about your job. You must think I was born yesterday, and why not? Everyone else does. Barry the plank, Barry the loser. You know what? I am so pleased that I have created so much entertainment for the good people of this square over the years. Here comes Barry. He's a right wally. And you know what? They're right. I must be a total idiot, because look what's happened to me. Well, I must still give them entertainment. Are they laughing into their pints in the Vic? Ha ha ha! Barry's life's in ruins. What are you still doing here? Haven't you been listening to me? I'm not falling for this anymore, love. Now get out, because I want to be on my own!
Yeah, well, I don't, all right? I don't want to be on my own. I've told him. I told Ricky I don't want anything more to do with him. So you see, Barry, it's not just you that's going to be on your own, all right? It's me as well.
This is how British TV works. Russell T Davies is one of the big writers who can get originals made. He's well considered, Doctor Who, etc. And he's got a career doing things like Clocking Off, and he's got a career. Go further back, he wrote Coronation Street for a long while. But go further back than that, Russell T Davies started his career writing Chucklevision for the Chuckle Brothers. So from Chucklevision, it's to Coronation Street, to then more original stuff, Clocking Off, and then all his, he's done some fantastic work, Doctor Who, and being at the pinnacle. But Russell T Davies doesn't get to the pinnacle unless he goes in to the agent's office and said, I'll write anything, I'll write Chucklevision.
Paul? Who's this? They're his forefathers. Forefathers?
Because that's how it works. You have to deliver scripts that are filmable, that are delivered on time over a long period before any commissioner at the BBC, at ITV, at Channel 4 or at Sky will take you seriously. Because you have to show, no matter what happens, your scripts will get shot, delivered and shown on TV. So what do I mean by no matter what happens? I can give you an example. I've done rewrites over the phone then and there for Emmerdale episodes that are running 2 minutes short. An Emmerdale episode has to be exactly 23 point something minutes. The scripts are timed when you go through the process. Sometimes the scene's shot quicker by the director, and then they get to the editing and we need 2 more minutes. So I've had a phone call, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm in, town shopping, and we need 2 extra minutes now. And I'm like, what actors have you got? What locations have you got? We've got Bob and Viv, and we've got the Woolpack. Then over the phone, I've dictated a 2-minute scene, literally not written anything down, just said the dialogue to the script editor who's typed it up on the other end of the phone. That 2 minutes was then shot, timed, and it went into the episode that day. And I was out shopping or doing some family stuff in town. That's part of the course. I've had a call on Saturday evening at about 10 o'clock when I was working on EastEnders, and I was told the lead actress of my episode, which started shooting on Monday, had been in a car crash, and it wasn't clear if she was going to be able to walk again, never mind be on set on Monday ready to shoot. And I had to rewrite a whole EastEnders episode, pretty much every scene, overnight. So that happens a lot. And your Russell T Davies or your Jimmy McGovern on Brookside, if you write those shows long enough, you will go through every situation. All kinds of things can happen when you're shooting a film or a TV show, and these things are juggernauts. They cannot stop. You cannot have a crew costing 200 grand a day not shooting anything. So that's part of the process, and that's why commissioners, they'll look for writers who over a long period have delivered filmable shows. So this is how careers work in the UK, at least. Comedy drama really is the best script to have. Why is that? What about a sci-fi film? What about an action film? What about a horror film? Comedy drama is the best script to have, because an agent can read it and send it to the producers of different programmes where they can get you work. The BBC, ITV, Channel 4, we don't really make horror programmes. We don't make sci-fi shows. The Americans do that, we don't. We make Casualty, we make EastEnders, we make Emmerdale, we make Hollyoaks, we make Corrie. That's what they're looking at. For comedy writers, a good sitcom script, that's great. If you're a comedy writer, you might find you get sent to children's TV to write comedy for children first, just like Russell T Davies did with Chucklevision. But that's a good place to start for comedy writers. But comedy drama is a good genre because essentially that's soap. Soaps are meant to make you cry and occasionally make you laugh. A comedy drama can be sent, as I said, to the producers of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 programmes. A horror film they can't send anywhere. A sci-fi Star Wars spectacular they can't send anywhere because we don't make it. So this is how it works. You get a good spec script, a speculative script, usually a feature script. A comedy drama shows you can write dramatic stuff, you can make people laugh, smile as well. That script then goes to an agent. The agent reads it and thinks, the producer of so-and-so would like this writer. The producer of so-and-so would like this script, and the genre and the way it's mixing comedy and drama is similar to how Coronation Street works when it works really well. That's what agents are looking for. A spec script is something that they use to get you work. It's not going to get made. That's the other big confusion that people have. They write a really good script, just like I did with Sober, and you expect it to get made. My script got optioned. Loads of people wanted to make it, and there was talk of Universal Pictures, and different producers were interested, and I had meetings with Duncan Kenworthy and Andrew McDonald, and I thought, wow, this is going to get made. And then I met my agent sent it out, and I ended up writing Emmerdale. The difference between Sober winning the competition and getting optioned and me ending up on Emmerdale was probably 2-3 years. And I still thought, when I was writing my first Emmerdale episodes, I won't be doing this long because Sober's going to get made. When I started the EastEnders, I did the EastEnders new writing course, which was taught by Tony Jordan, another brilliant writer who's come up via existing shows. So Tony Jordan taught the EastEnders new writing course, and one of the things he said is, there's probably about 20 young writers there. He said, all you guys are probably thinking, I'm only doing this until my film gets made. Which I sort of laughed inside and looked around. And he said, I thought that as well when I started, and everybody who starts in EastEnders thinks the same thing. So you've always got this film script that is really good and ends up being good enough to get you a chance at writing a soap or a serial drama. But that film doesn't get made. The script, the Great British Movie you've got just won't get made because the industry doesn't exist. The UK is a production house for American studio pictures. So getting a feature film made is almost impossible unless you do it yourself, really. We do just spend a lot of time and energy making American films here and helping Americans realise particularly the big special effects stuff here. The reason why the Americans shoot here is we give about £1 billion a year in tax breaks to American productions. And that alongside having great, technicians is why they shoot here. And we've got a lot of studio space as well. But essentially they're shooting here because we're cheaper. So yeah, the film industry in the UK, we make less than, really, 10, 20 proper films a year, probably less than that. And out of that 10, 20, a lot of those are just TV movie level budgets. They're really TV movies made by Sky mainly, or occasionally Channel 4. They might end up in the cinema for a week at best. Rewind. Let's just rewind to going back. I'm back in the room meeting with the agent. So the agent asked me, what shows do you want to work on? So I said, I mentioned all these different shows that I'd be interested in writing for. And the agent was pleased with that and told me, he'll show the door to people who aren't interested in writing for TV and actually getting jobs that the agent can send you to. So the agent did send the script out. It sent sober out my spec script, went to his contacts at various programs. What does an agent do? Let's cover that really quickly. An agent, as I said, is there to get you work. What do they actually do? They make friends with the producers on different programs that are potentially hiring. They go, to soirees in London and BBC and ITV and Channel 4 parties, and they meet and buy drinks for the producers of different shows. And if they have a client on that show, when they meet that producer at that party, they'll say, how's Matt Cooper doing? He's a young client of mine. How's Joe Bloggs doing? How's Sarah so-and-so doing? And that agent lets that producer know, that's my client. They're enjoying working for the producer or the exec producer. They're enjoying working on the show. So that's what an agent does. An agent essentially schmoozes. They go around meeting producers socially, having drinks socially, and sort of making friends with these people, so that when they get a new client, when they get a new script crosses their desk that they actually like, and they think the producer of Hollyoaks will like this, and they can actually email or ring that producer and say, I've got a great script by a new writer I've just met. They're really keen on writing Hollyoaks and learning the ropes. And if they're friendly, that's how it works. That's all an agent does. An agent meets all these producers because as a new writer you can't do that. You don't have access to those soirees or those social engagements. So that's the agent's the face. The agent's the person who the producer knows. Oh yeah, so-and-so's client. And that's what an agent does. And an agent earns their money by having writers earning money. When an agent's at an agency, you'll see maybe 20, 30, 40 writers under one agent, an assistant agent. And that book, those 20, 30, 40 writers are what the agent is bringing into the agency, that money, that 10%, that 15%. And a good agent is measured by his clients and the agency, or her clients and the agency, by how much their clients are working. It's okay having the great undiscovered screenwriter who's written a masterpiece, but if they're not working and they never work and the script never gets made, what's the point? So from my agent reading the script, my script was sent out to his contacts. The first thing that happened is I got invited to the EastEnders New Writers Scheme, and that was like in a couple of months' time, and I started watching EastEnders and catching up with how it worked, and I did things like count how many scenes was in the average episode, did all things like that in preparation. And then what also happened is Emmerdale called, and I went to meet the Emmerdale producer, and they actually invited me the next week to go to story conference. So I told my agent, hold on EastEnders, because I'm going to try Emmerdale. So I live in Leeds, and the production was in Leeds.
Emma, could I have a packet of them Pontefract cakes, please?
The posh ones are the ones from the jar.
Yeah, I'll have the cheap ones. They're chewier. Yeah.
Tricia, we're not having them.
But it's so soft and quilty.
Yeah, it's also extremely expensive. We might as well use £5 notes.
Oh, but just think of me behind.
It's never off my mind, but we can't afford it.
Well, I ain't using that stuff. It's like using sandpaper.
We've no choice.
Well, you do the flaming shopping then.
Oh, Tricia, that's ridiculous. Emily, I'll leave this here. Right, I'll be back.
Hang on a minute, lad.
So I ended up writing Emmerdale. How that works is you would do a trial script first, so you'd actually do a fake episode, but it would be based on a real episode. You get a storyline, which is a document that the episode has to be written sort of guidelines for the episode, and it was a real storyline. So a real writer on the team had a storyline, and you will get the same thing, and you will write an episode, and they will kind of compare the two episodes. We'll cover more of that later as well. But I ended up writing 2 or 3 trials for Emmerdale because the producer left halfway through the process. I was sort of getting onto it. So I did get on Emmerdale, and that whole process took about 6 months. Once I was officially commissioned, I was commissioned 5 episodes in a row, which means I got my first episode, number 1, and then 3 weeks later I was commissioned another, and 3 weeks after that I was commissioned another, 3 weeks after that I was commissioned another, 3 weeks after that I was commissioned another. So I did 5 scripts back to back, rewriting, doing second drafts or polishes on each script as I went along. So you're essentially working on 2 scripts at once. And then over the first year I was on Emmerdale, I was given 11 episodes, which, as they say, they commission every 3 weeks. They will rest you, and the producer at the time did actually apologise for giving me 5 episodes in a row, because it was a bit much for a new writer. They normally give you 1, give you a break, give you 2, so more like one episode every 6 weeks. But suddenly I'm writing Emmerdale, and within about 2 months I'm actually gone from writing the dialogue on the page to seeing it on the screen. It's at that point you see if your dialogue really works, and if you can do character stuff, and if you can do structure. Emmerdale, really good, quick, fast learning experience, and all the soaps are. They all pretty much work the same way. You write it, within a couple of months it's on TV, and you see very quickly in front of the whole, viewership, what you've done wrong, how you've done it wrong, and how you need to sort of realise how to fix it. So I was on Emmerdale. I did a year on EastEnders, a lot of the Alfie and Cat stuff, Family Affairs, which was a Channel 5 soap, and then I was part of the team that helped revamp Hollyoaks when it was near to getting cancelled in 2006. We ended up tripling the viewing figures, introducing the McQueens and the gangster Warren Fox, and making Hollyoaks really successful for a while. So that's all the work I did. What happened with my career is, as we go back to talking to the agent, we talked about Dick Clementi and Lafreniere. We also talked about Russell T Davies, and we talked about Jim McGovern. We talked about people, Sally Wainwright. We talked about these people who'd done soaps, and then when they was good at these soaps or serial dramas, Casualty or Holby in those days, I was on Emmerdale in 2000, and something happened called Big Brother. And Big Brother we sort of saw it happening at the time. It killed original drama very quickly. Prior to Big Brother, we might have had the odd property show, but you had a lot of drama on, you had a lot of original shows and original commissions, at least a lot more than not as much as there were in the 60s, 70s and early 80s, but there were miles more prior to 2001. What happened with Big Brother is they put a load of normal people in a set in Elstree and live streamed it, and it was very cheap and nobody was paid very much, and it broke records for viewing figures. And at some point producers realised, do we need writers? Do we need actors? Do we need directors? So they started this experiment with reality TV, which led to the explosion of Gogglebox, I'm a Celebrity, TV shows, and that was #1 rated on Channel 4. It would smash everything for years. I've seen dramas go up against Gogglebox that have cost a few £1,000,000 per episode, and Gogglebox, with its families given a free pizza and its little GoPro camera stuck under their TV, has absolutely wiped the floor with it viewing figure wise. Once they realised that, and Big Brother and Gogglebox and Voice and even Strictly Come Dancing was brought back, because it's essentially a reality format, these shows began sort of ruling the viewing figures. And what that meant is drama and actors and writers and going out and shooting with a crew, and it all being very expensive and risky and difficult. The commissioning editors on every channel in the UK started to lose their appetite for drama, and instead they wanted reality TV They wanted more formats like Gogglebox. They wanted Real Housewives of this, that and the other. I'd gone into the soaps wanting to build a career and come out and get original shows made, and nearly everybody I went into the soaps with at the same time has not done that, because that doesn't exist anymore. Got my little friend here occasionally as well. Okay, that sudden switch that Big Brother hit and sent commissioners chasing after cheap reality TV and cheaper formats, what that all led to was when Netflix and Amazon, started suddenly throwing money at quality drama. It left all the broadcasters in the UK badly exposed. And I'm talking about the start of YouTube 2006, Facebook 2007. Smartphones became ubiquitous around this time as well. So you had a generation that's grown up with TV pumping out, at least in the UK, nothing but cheap reality TV. And then smartphones appearing and social networking appearing, and finding that actually gaming is suddenly, especially with online gaming, suddenly stepped up. And then you've got the BBC, ITV, Channel 4 essentially chasing reality formats. Gaming suddenly looks more interesting. Netflix launching with really high quality, well written drama. But people forget that House of Cards was a British BBC TV series that Netflix bought and remade. And you had a whole generation then that was starting to grow up with smartphones and YouTube. And what is YouTube? YouTube is essentially reality TV, at least that's how it started. It was usually one person talking to a camera. It's what I'm doing now. So, the broadcasters have been chasing for years cheap formats and cheap reality TV without actors or writers, and then YouTube comes along and there's thousands and thousands and hundreds of millions of people uploading content, which is essentially the same as Gogglebox. That's what the BBC and ITV were chasing. YouTube suddenly delivered a lot better than they did. Hollyoaks at the moment, Channel 4 are putting new episodes directly onto YouTube because the audience is bigger on YouTube than it is on Channel 4. So you think about an organisation like Channel 4 with thousands of people working for it and commissioning production companies and having outside, interests and a whole ecosystem relying on Channel 4 to make shows with them, and it's putting Hollyoaks onto YouTube because the audience is bigger on YouTube than it is on its own broadcast network. That's a massive admission of failure and of an industry that's in a real mess. So, as a screenwriter, where do I find myself now? As a screenwriter, as I said, there's only 300 at any one time in the UK that are making a living from it. Doctors gets cancelled, that's 60, 70 writers out of work. Earlier, about 18 months ago, I think Holby was cancelled, that's about 40 writers out of work. EastEnders at any one time can have between 40 and 75 writers. Emmerdale, Hollyoaks, Corrie, 30 to 40 writers. And those are the shows that are commissioning regularly. And that are those people, those writers on those shows, those regular commissioning, continuing soaps and serial dramas, those are the only writers that are actually earning a regular income.
Okay then. Okay, bye-bye. Bye.
You seem very busy.
I'm rushed off my feet. Now, what can I do for you?
How's that dog?
Tootsie.
Oh, who on earth would give a dog a ridiculous name like that?
It's much better, thank you. Except for now we've got another small problem.
What is it?
Mrs. Rowe doesn't want the dog back. I mean, she really can't look after it, so I've either got to find it a new home or it's going to have to go in the shelter.
Well, good luck with that.
Edna, you don't know of anyone that could take the dog in, do you?
Well, not offhand, no. Especially with a name like Tootsie, I can't imagine anybody shouting that across the fields. It'd sound ridiculous.
Not unless you're a big Dustin Hoffman fan, though, eh?
Yes, well, I'm just glad that the animal is fit again.
Edna,
Good day.
There is other ways as a scriptwriter to earn money. There's more video, as I said, there's more video being produced now, there's more scripted video being produced now than at any time in history, and that's everywhere the world over. There are hundreds and hundreds of jobs that need scriptwriters or people with scriptwriting talent and experience, but these jobs are now in new media or online, or working for agencies, or working for brands, or working on internal comms for large organisations. I myself have a website. If you Google Scriptwriter for Hire or Scriptwriter for Hire UK, after the Google adverts you'll find my website, and I take on all kinds of work.
Put that back in the bottle, Tricia. Mother's got to get her belongings together.
I'm not going anywhere.
Yes, you are. You'll be out of my house before nightfall.
You'll be staying with us, Beg.
No, I won't.
Yes, you will, you cantankerous old cow!
Agents have kind of pivoted. A lot of them now represent YouTubers. They represent social media influencers alongside people like writers and personalities and presenters. So agents, the same the world over, need to get paid. They need to have you working. So if you want to be a working scriptwriter, it hasn't really changed essentially. You have to get an agent to get anything read. Why do you need to get an agent to get anything read? Okay, nobody in the UK in the business will accept an unsolicited script pretty much, except the BBC Writersroom. So let's put that there. Pretty much everybody, I'd say 99% of places, production companies, they won't read something if you send that to them. So I'm a writer, I'm BAFTA shortlisted, I've got credits on all ITV, BBC, as we said. If I sent a treatment or a script to a production company tomorrow, they wouldn't read it. It'd come back to me, either by return post or the email would bounce back to me unopened. Why is that? I'm a writer with credits, why can't I get anything read? There's a blanket wide understanding in the entire industry that nobody will read unsolicited material. Why is that? Now what happened is there's a show called Life on Mars, I think it was, about a cop from the present that goes back to the past, the 70s Sweeney era. It appears that was quite a popular idea because when it appeared on TV, a few writers at some point in the recent past had sent a similar idea out, and even to the production company involved. It might have been 10 to 20 years before they made the programme. But people said, hang on, I sent that idea. And these writers, and there were more than one, took legal advice. The person who wrote the programme had thought he'd come up with the idea, and this happens in screenwriting. There's loads and loads and loads of ideas that are all the same. After the Detectorists came out, I read scripts for new writers. After the Detectorists aired on TV, the year after that, I read about 40 scripts set in allotments about allotmenteering. A kind of similar thing to the Detectorists, but with allotments. All those people who wrote those allotment scripts were convinced they were the only one who wrote an allotment script. That's how it works. So anyway, the Life on Mars, the production company was taken to court by a number of writers who said they'd sent the idea previously. And the legal ruling from the judge fell on the production company to prove they hadn't stolen the idea, which they couldn't. Which is why nobody in the UK, and pretty much the world over now, will accept an unsolicited script. So you can't write a script and send it anywhere. Even with an agent, the agent really has to have a personal connection with the production company. An agent can send a script to a production company, it doesn't mean they'll read it. Production companies, funnily enough, they have regular meetings with broadcasters and commissioners, and the production company gets told what the broadcaster or commissioner is looking for. So if ITV are only tell everybody they meet, we're looking for a new drama for Sarah Lancashire, that's what they want. If you send them a drama that would work well for Stephen Graham, they're not interested. Production companies will find out what broadcasters want and then contact the writers and writers they know and have worked with and sort of work on ideas themselves. If you send them an idea, and even if they know who you are, well-known writer, you've got a good agent, they still might not read it. And this is the thing that people don't realise as well. When I started at Hollyoaks, One of the things we did in the storyline office is we moved offices. We physically moved offices. We moved from one room to another. When we moved into the new room, there was a big cabinet, and this cabinet was locked, and we found the key for it and opened it. And the cabinet was full of scripts, and this is at Line Pictures that made Hollyoaks. This is in 2006. This cabinet was filled top to bottom with scripts. And I went through the scripts, and I found my script, Sober, which had been sent to Line Pictures about 5 years previously, covered in dust in the pile. And I remember at the time having to go to my agent saying, have we heard back from Line Pictures? And he said, no, I've not heard back, I've chased them. And what had happened to the script my agent sent, which was a big agent from a big agency, is it had gone into a cupboard that wouldn't be opened again for 5 years. That's how it works. That's how it is now. Okay, so that's the business aspects. It's very discouraging. If you're a UK scriptwriter, listen, it's very discouraging for new writers. It's very discouraging for people who've been doing it for years, because the very small pool of work is becoming much, much smaller. It's much harder now than when I started out. So that's the business aspects covered. If any of that puts you off, it's worth watching this video alone and rethinking, what you want to do. I'm talking about this at the end of 2024. It might change. It might go different ways. But it's going to be very difficult to make a living. It's always been difficult to make a living as a scriptwriter in the UK, pretty much from the beginning of television. So now, what we're going to do in the next chapter of the video is I do script reports. I will read new writers' work and give them feedback on it, page for page. I'll give you a proper read. If I think you need lessons, I'll try and give you the lessons in the report. If I think you're really good and you just need pointers, I'll try and give you pointers in the report. And I'll give you all the tips and tricks that I've learned over years. I've read, since 2014 when I started redoing the reports, I've probably read between 300 and 400 scripts every year since 2014, which at times can be hard to do, and it can get sort of in between my actual own commissions as a scriptwriter and my own work as a filmmaker. But I have done it, and after reading that many scripts, it really does focus your mind on what I know, what my craft is. And when I'm giving feedback, I don't just tell somebody it's rubbish, I tell them why it's rubbish. I tell them why it's not working, and then I hopefully can tell them this is how it works and this is how you need to do it. Because otherwise it's just negative feedback, and I try not to do that. So I'm going to give you the top problems that I come across in scripts. Now, the first is pretty much 80% of scripts I read by new first-time writers have this problem. And the problem is not understanding the difference between show and tell. The first rule of script writing is show, don't tell. And everybody thinks they understand that. It means I show something visually and don't tell it. But then what new writers do is they have people standing around explaining the plot to each other, like Barry Exposition, who was a character in Austin Powers at one point. Barry Exposition's job was to turn up in scenes and explain, this is actually what's happening in Austin. Dr. Evil's decided to do this, that and the other, and what you need to do, that's exposition. And about 80% of all script writers starting out, they have their characters standing around with these long speeches, usually 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sentences, explaining the plot to each other. Well, how did you get here? I'll tell you how I got here. I got here in a UFO that dropped me off. Did you know that? I didn't know you came in a UFO. So it's usually not as bad that, but it's not far off. So if your plot is delivered in dialogue that's clumsy and expositional, what you're doing is telling. And if you know this, it's really easy to spot. And 80%, as I say, of these scripts I read, it's just characters standing around, for the most part, explaining what's going on to each other. And the reason why the characters are explaining what's going on to each other is because the script, the reader or the viewer wouldn't know what's going on. So it's not a problem. It is a problem of not understanding show not tell, but it's a problem of structure. If a film is full of expositional dialogue and full of tell, and there isn't any show, it's usually because the new writer hasn't understood structure and how it works. So films to get this really boiled down to the very essence of it, most films tell the same story. And the story is, somebody wants something, that something is hard to get. They have to go after that thing that's hard to get. They have to be pushed to the very limits, the very test of them, and then they go past the sort of edge of no return, and the character gets the thing or doesn't, and that's it. And I will repeat it again. Most films are exactly this. Somebody wants something, that something's hard to get, they have to chase after that thing and be pushed to the point of no return. The person then goes past the point of no return and either gets that thing or not. And that is 99.9% all films are that. Star Wars is about Luke Skywalker, who wants to help Leia and Han and the Rebel Alliance overcome Darth Vader. He's pushed to the point of no return when Obi-Wan dies, and he has to then be an adult and take control of the Force and then take on Darth Vader. The Matrix is about Neo, who wants to with his little team do the same thing. He wants to defeat the Matrix, and he wants to sort of, help the rebels. And then he's pushed to the point of no return when Morpheus dies, and he has to grow up and use his powers and be the one. Dorothy in Wizard of Oz, she goes into Oz, and along with her little team, she wants to get to the wizard, blah blah blah, and she's pushed. It's the same plot. Jason and the Argonauts, Jason wants to get the fleet. It's the same plot. Ghostbusters is the same plot. Tootsie is the same plot. Every film you can think of, 99.9% of them are the same plot. Jason Bourne wants to find out who he is and defeat Treadstone, and then he's pushed past the point that it's the same plot. Now, a lot of these films have a similar thing in common, and this is to do with structure. And this is, as I said, there's hundreds of books on this. I've read thousands of screenwriting books. I'm sure some of you guys have as well. Really, the real secret of screenwriting is this, that there is only one story. But there's not a long book written about that, or a long book written about that would be very repetitive and dull. One story, one character wants something, often gets a team together to help them get it, push to the point of return, there we get it or not. Ratchet up the tension all the way. That's Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's Star Wars. That's Jurassic Park. That's Jaws. Quint dies. Morpheus dies. Obi-Wan dies. These are the same plot. This is the same thing over and over again. The great writers knew this. It goes back to the the Greek myths. It goes back to the hero with the 1,000 faces. It's the same plot. George Lucas understood this. Narnia is the same plot as Star Wars. The Chronicles of Narnia, Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe is the same plot as The Matrix. So you need to understand that. So once you understand that, how does that actually work? How do you tell a story like that? How do you tell a story like that without telling the story, without using expositional dialogue? The one way you do it, and as I say, there's thousands of books, and there's all this stuff written about this, but it really is, it's one thing. You have one main character, you put them in every scene. You show the story happening to them as it happens. So if you go back and look at Jason, you look at the first Bourne film. Bourne wakes up floating in the sea. He's pulled from the sea. He wakes up, he finds out, I can't remember my name. There's a bullet in me, I can't remember anything that happened. None of it's coming back. He gets off the boat. He's making his way towards Geneva because he's found a bank number under his skin. Some police sort of approach him when he's asleep on a bench, and as it happens, Jason Bourne kung fu's them, and he can unload the gun. We see all that happening as it happens to Jason Bourne, and we're in Jason Bourne's head as it happens, because we don't know who he is. We don't know what he's done. We don't know why there's a bullet in him. Raiders of the Lost Ark. We see Indiana Jones go in and grab the artifact and then escape with his life, and then we follow him as he's told about the Nazis after the Ark. It happens to the character as we watch it happen, and that is how we identify with them. Luke's on a planet, he's having a boring life, he gets a message via a droid, he goes to find Obi-Wan Kenobi, he sees a lightsaber for the first time, his relatives are murdered. It all happens as we're watching it happen to the main character who's in every scene. So people were saying those sound, they're simplistic stories. Well, actually, the greatest UK TV series, drama series ever made was an adaptation of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and it was done with Alec Guinness, and it was done in the 70s, and it's a massively complicated plot. It's a brilliant TV series, and pretty much Alec Guinness is in every scene as George Smiley, and we find out about the mole at the top of the Secret Service as George Smiley does, and as George Smiley tracks things down and puts things together, we understand it as he understands it. He's in every scene just about. This is how it works, and if you think of it like that, if it's happening to the character as we watch it, there's no need to put words into characters' mouths explaining what's happening, because visually we're seeing it happen as it happens, and our understanding is the same as the main character's understanding. So the audience are focused on the main character, understand what's happening to them, or don't understand it, and we're in their head as they are, and that's how we identify with the main character, and that's how a plot works through without actually telling it, without having to explain any of it to anybody, because we see it happen to the main person as it happens, as we follow them. So in a sense, the plot is happening to us, and the plot is somebody wants something, Jason Bourne wants to know who he is, Luke wants to help, etc, etc. Neo wants to find out what the Matrix is and then defeat it. We see it happen as it happens, and that's how it works. And all those films, pretty much every Hollywood film you mention, if you mention a Hollywood film now, go on, see a film, it's about somebody wants something, whatever it is, that thing's hard to get, you have to push them to the point of no return, they go beyond the point of no return at great risk or sacrifice, and they either get the thing or not. That is the film. It's every film, pretty much 99.9% of films. And you structure a film like that, and you should structure your scripts like that by having the main character in every scene and telling the story as it happens to that person, so we see it and you don't have to tell it. So that's the biggest mistake. It's almost the number one, and to understand that and learn how not to do that and how to structure a story so it is your main character, so we see it happening as it happens. That's the big thing to get over. And if you watch this entire video just to get to that part and you feel underwhelmed or that doesn't make sense to you, then you might want to contact me for a script report. So my website's mattcoop.co.uk. I will read scripts for a fee. You will get a full report. I will try and help if I can. But that's my big advice: how to show not tell. Ask any questions below, and I'll try and answer them, whether they're on the business aspects or on actual screenwriting nuts and bolts and advice. I'll try and answer them as well. But yeah, my big bit of advice for screenwriters generally is the business part can't be ignored, because this is a business. It's your business, not your friends. An agent's there to make money for you and for the agency, so you need to be working. My other big bit of advice is about show and don't tell, the number one rule of screenwriting. And hopefully by explaining how to set up a story, set up a script so that your main character's in every scene, and that the plot of the script happens to that character as we're watching. You start at the last second that the script makes sense, and you go from there, and every scene should follow it. But it's the one story is the one story. Somebody wants something, it's hard to get. You've got to push them to the point of no return around the third act. They get over that, and they either get it or not, and it's rising tension all the way up. That is 99.9% of stories. I do special coverage of sitcoms. A sitcom is it's a British institution. We've made some of the best ones ever made. I talked about Dick Clement and Neil Effernair earlier. Porridge is still getting repeated today. Whatever happened to the Lightly Lads is still getting repeated today. Only Fools and Horses, things that will just become mega monster institutions really. Sitcom is situation comedy, but the key thing isn't the situation, it's the character. Sitcoms need to have a character that never changes, And that is the secret to a sitcom. That's the sitcom sauce. Del Boy will never ever stop trying to be a millionaire. He'll finish one episode having done an absolutely daft deal that winds him up in really, really bad trouble. The next episode he'll restart and he'll almost do that same bad deal again in a different way. And that's all Only Fools and Horses is. You think of Fawlty Towers, one of the great sitcoms of all time. Basil starts every episode the same, no matter what happens in an episode before. Every episode, Basil will end up railing against everything. Things will be absolute chaos. It's absolute mess. And he'll start the next episode and do exactly the same thing again. And all sitcoms are like that. Hyacinth Bouquet will never change. Del Boy will never change. You take Porridge. Porridge is a great example because it's Fletch in prison having little victories against the prison guards and the system. That situation, it can't change because Fletch always wakes up in prison. They did do a sequel to Porridge where Fletch got out of prison. Once Fletch is out of prison, the comedy stops working. The sitcom stops working. And that series was cancelled and it's never repeated now. Because the character's designed to go all the way up to the very point of absurdity in each episode. Think of Victor Meldrew. Victor Meldrew ends one episode, buried up to his neck in horse manure. Will start the next episode and practically the same thing will happen again. His character will never change. They don't change. Great sitcom characters don't change. So when you're designing a sitcom and looking at a situation comedy, you essentially have to do a character that's in a spiral that will never change. So that's how sitcoms work. And that's how all the successful ones really work. It's about a character that never actually changes. Not so much about the situation, but about the character. Okay, so that's a little bit of extra advice on sitcoms there as well. But yeah, I look at all kinds of scripts. I'll look at shorts, features. I'll look at series proposals. I'll look at first episodes of series. I'll look at all TV series and charge accordingly. But usually, I only need to read. If it's a TV series you've written, I only need to read the first episode. Because that's all an agent will read. Nobody will agree to read 6 episodes or something. So yeah. I hope this has been helpful. Ask some questions below and I'll try my best to give good advice. It's a particularly bad time in the industry. When I started out, things seemed a lot easier and a bit more hopeful. But fast forward, I started in 1993. There was 4 channels, no internet, and now we're in a different world. Screenwriters. Good screenwriters will always be able to get jobs on existing shows while they last, like Emmerdale, Corrie, Hollyoaks, EastEnders, Casualty, and that's where you'll earn money, and that's where you'll build your credits, and that's how you get an agent, is somebody wanting to build a career like that. So that and the show don't tell. I hope this is all helps. I'm sure this is a ridiculously long video. Anyway, my name's Matthew Cooper. You can have a look at my website on mattcoop.co.uk. And yeah, ask your questions below and I'll try my best to help. Thank you.